part of today's session. My name is Camila and I am the co-founder of Sativa Media. Sativa Media is one of the few platforms in India that focuses on creating awareness and education around sustainability, the SDGs, and the cannabis industry in India. Last year at Startup September, we had a few sessions about the hemp industry in India and how hemp can pave the way to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. This year, we are happy to continue our partnership with Headstart and bring you a series of 8 online sessions that target different aspects of the sustainability world. Along with these sessions, we're also hosting a women-focused offline event supported by Hemp Street and Health Horizons called Women First, which will be on the 24th of September here in Bangalore. And we'll be launching a report on the importance of championing women in order to achieve the SDGs. We'll also have a panel discussion among female leaders on how they and their ventures are impacting women in 5 key areas. Today, in our third online session, Smarter Than the Three Little Pigs, we have Gaurav, Karan, and Aditya, who will tell us about a different approach to construction. With this, I'd like to introduce Rohit Shah. Thank you so much, Rohit, for moderating this session. Over to you.
Thank you, Camila. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the session today. And I hope, there'll be some interesting conversations with, the three guys who've been, using waste and other materials to develop sustainable products. I am Rohit Shah. I'm going to be the moderator for today's session. I am the president of Industrial Indian Hemp Association, as well as the co-founder for Hemp Horizons Pvt Ltd, which is a nutritional and medicinal-based hemp and cannabis company. By education, I'm an architectural engineer, so I guess that's why I'm here today to learn more about the sustainable materials. So I think first and foremost, I would like to thank our panelists, Gaurav, Aditya, and Karan. Thank you guys for joining today. I would like to request each one of you, in no particular order, to start introducing yourselves and please highlight one of the key points that your company is currently working on. Maybe we can start with Aditya. You first.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for providing this opportunity to present my innovation and my work to your platform. So in a very brief term, what we do, I'm founder and CEO of Saltech Design Lab. We are a company based out of Ahmedabad, Gujarat. We are a manufacturing company which has innovated a technology of recycling multiple kinds of waste, particularly single-use plastic, construction and demolition waste, industrial waste of all sorts, mixed together into a polymer composite material. And these composite material basically we use to make precast products like blocks, brick, tiles, which can replace cement concrete products in a very affordable and sustainable manner. So this is the technology which we have innovated. We have recycled around 300 metric tons plus of waste into products and installed this product into multiple segments like affordable housing, public infrastructure, high-rise infrastructure, different applications. So in a very simple terms, we are basically valorizing waste and recovering value out of waste and converting them into a sustainable infrastructure to make it into a new kind of form of life.
Thanks, Aditya. I mean, it's interesting to see how, even waste has become a raw material now for a lot of different products out there. And I believe, this is exactly where we need to be as world, as one world, as one earth. We see a lot more, wastage going out as opposed to new materials getting manufactured or recovered from the nature. So kudos to you, Aditya. We can talk more as we go along the session. I would like to invite Gaurav to please introduce himself and what you're doing in this field.
So I'm truly honored to be part of this panel of extraordinary people who are working to make India a world leader. And I would like to introduce myself as a qualified architect from the School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi. And I am here because my team has been working on creating building products from hemp which can be used to construct the building. And we are an award-winning startup based out of Uttarakhand, and mostly like our major research has taken place while we were based in rural Uttarakhand. And we are winners of the Global Housing Technology Challenge 2021 and were awarded by the Prime Minister himself for our work in the hemp-based construction technology. And currently, we are working with IIT Roorkee for a year-long project in which we are trying to improve the materials that we have developed with hemp. And we are also working with IIM Kashipur to create a feasible business out of this concept. So just as a demonstration, our team, I'm proud to tell you all that my team has built the first hemp street building of India. And I should not say hemp street, but we have demonstrated the use of hemp in a building. So our building has got the upholstery and the carpets and rugs, everything made out of hemp. We have also created hemp-based wood polishes, which we use in the project. Apart from using prefabricated hemp blocks into the construction, along with the cast in situ technologies for monolithic wall construction. And also we have used low density hemp lime mix as the roof insulation. And we have also used hemp fiber for reinforcing the mud and lime plaster. So that building in itself is a demonstration of how various parts of the plant can be used. So thank you very much for having me here, and I'm very excited to talk to you all more about the use of hemp in construction. Thank you.
Thanks, Gaurav. I think you are probably living the talk that everybody gives out there, that hemp has 25,000 uses. So you're actually putting those uses to a practical use and showing people that yes, insulation, walls, mud slabs, flooring, anything can be made from various parts of one plant. So really excited to hear more about the different constructions and what kind of versatilities or improvements that are available when you're using hemp as a building material. So with that, I would like to invite our final panelist, Karan. Karan, thank you for joining us, and I know you've been an innovator, innovating in different segments of the industry. So would love to hear about you. So please come online and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Rohit, for this vast description that you gave. But eventually, I'm just a small contributor like you all who is trying to save our environment and ecosystem with the efforts that we put in. Because this is the only last place that we can live in. There is no option to what we are living where. So eventually, my name is Karan Sarsar. I'm the founder and CEO of Awega Green Technologies, founded in 2018. We have been working in hemp industry and green technologies from past 7 to 8 years. And we have been working specialized in hemp because that's the passion that I got through a TV show where they were making a car made out of hemp, which is a famous car, Kestrel car, world's first zero carbon, zero emission car. So that is what the fascinating idea actually helped me to push the idea to the next level, where we can actually explore and create a new horizontal for within our country for economics as well as ecological stability. So definitely we have been in construction and sustainability, there are several other products, but we managed to develop a patent and process, patentable process, which we call it as the hemp ecoply. And right now, it has been marketed as canna wood in Australian country. So we have made a perfect replacement for wood and metal. So everyone out here knows the tensile strength and properties of hemp. So we just wanted to take it to the next level where it goes into our daily life structures. So this could actually help us out to get rid of plastics in our surrounding, and as well as accept this material as an ultimate material, because the wood that we have created is fireproof, water resistant, fire this thing termite proof, earthquake insulation, perfect insulation, and it is 1.5 times stronger than steel. Like we got it tested, so it was the according to Grinnell test, it was having an equivalence of equivalent to magnesium alloy. So that was the thing that actually we are still trying to develop furthermore changes according to the requirement in market, like creating a load bearing structure with the hemp fibers compressed in such a way where it should actually hold the load bearing capacities. So till date, what we could actually develop is basically replacement for wood, and looking forward for structures which could be like foldable homes, then decking, flooring, then wall cladding, then you have roofs, outer surface cladding. So it is like a complete package for internal and exterior use of hemp into the building and construction sector. So eventually, we are creating an opportunity for farmers as well as the innovators for us to join us and create some more cost viable products with hemp. So that's what is all about.
Thanks, Karan. Guys, I think this is so interesting, right? We just heard the three panelists, and everybody, right from using 300 metric tons of waste and converting them into blocks and pavers, from Gaurav to using every single part of the plant into different applications in building industry, and then Gaurav and then Karan coming out with these innovations and working with the tensile strengths and working on the load bearing capacities. This is so interesting to me. So guys, one of my questions to you would be, in this entrepreneurial journey, right, and being on the sustainable side of things, what are the challenges that you faced? I'm sure there might be times when people called you crazy and told you, why are you going ahead and butting your heads against the cement industry or the wood industry or any of those established industries. So would love to hear from you how your entrepreneur journey has been so far. Were there any hiccups, ups and downs, losses, big gains, partnerships, all that sort of things? So any of you can start.
I think I have a very interesting short story regarding this. So in 2018, when we were developing the materials, the composition of materials from different kinds of waste together, so we wanted to process this material into product, eventually a composite uniform slurry, and then to cast into product. So we went to every single one of the industry key players who was at a well-known name in industry specifically for plastic, and every single one of them rejected us. And they had an issue regarding that the kind of heterogeneous waste which you want to process, if we put that waste into our machine is going to be jacked up, and it's not going to process. Forget about processing, it's going to be a failure for us to basically destroy our own machine by knowing that the material is highly abrasive and with multiple inerts and other things. And that is where we realize that the people are reluctant to take that jump or leap of faith, even with a calculated risk into the industry, and that is what is stopping them from innovating. Otherwise, they have more resources than a startup like us who is just coming out with an idea. The only thing which makes a huge difference between these people and us is the courage. And that is where we went on to get a small machine which is in a very bad shape, and we brought that machine. We started re-engineering and working on it, and went on to develop our own system. It took us more than 1.5 years, but yeah, eventually, like by the end of 2019, we had our own system which can actually process around 1 ton of material in a day. So that rejection from the industry players for not processing our material just to try out has given a new direction where we went on to make the machine from scratch, which we were not even thinking of. So yeah, challenges are like these. People are reluctant to understand what you want to build because there can be reasons they might not be able to understand, or they don't have the similar vision like you XYZ. But the issue is regarding that leap of faith which they can take with the resources they have. If they don't, that is what helps stop them from innovating. And that is what the differentiating factor between them and us. As an innovator, we don't have that much to lose. हमारे पास तो क्या है, कर दिया हो गया नहीं हुआ तो रब रखा, लेकिन करेंगे सही. So that is what our methodology is, apart from doing the calculated method. So yeah, this is how we came out of one of the very critical challenge while developing the whole machine and the technology.
That's great to hear. I think having problems or hurdles in a journey definitely is one of the keys to innovating more and more. So Gaurav, Karan, would love to hear your entrepreneurial journeys, how you've been facing challenges or gains or partnerships in your journey so far.
So should I continue, or Gaurav would like to take forward? Okay. I'll so basically, starting off with hemp, I started off in my bachelor's of I have completed my mechanical engineering. So it started back in 2012 onwards, and people were like, "What are you getting into?" So hemp, they never heard of it, but when it came to the local language, which is called as cannabis, ganja, bhang, so people actually found that either I am consuming it or either I have gone crazy after consuming it. So people were like, okay, things are getting a bit weird for them because they haven't experienced. But any which ways, we kept on going. I tried convincing several people around me who were like PhD holders, masters in engineering and all, but they couldn't believe that things could be possible. Eventually, one of my mentor guide, Mr. Chetan Sankar, he's a chemical engineer and is experienced in biodiesels. So he understood my vision, where we started off with the first journey of creating world's first zero carbon, zero emission B20 blend, like mixing 20% of biodiesel with the diesel that we are conventional diesel that we are using, and we got a zero carbon emission. So this was the thing. When we actually published it, people started believing that yes, other than narcotic properties, hemp and cannabis does have a different angle. It is just the people who needs to like believe and actually understand the aspect of the same. So that's how we actually turned out to create furthermore projects. And till date, yes, we have been working with Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Textile of India for further development of hemp, where we actually introduced them to the hemp textile, where they saw several products made out of it, and we made sure that hemp products are actually on display in Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Textile. So people coming out there, they actually get to know more about, other than cotton jute, there is another option in our country, which is like we call it as the weed. but that weed can actually make plenty. It's a $1 billion crop. So that's how it was a challenging journey where there were thousands of no's and there was just 1% chances that we just converted. So here we are.
Yeah, I think as you said it right, unless you start collaborating with the government bodies, unless you start educating the officials and the bureaucrats and the people that are really signing those policies and laws, it doesn't work, right? You can still go back and push as much as you want as an individual, but unless you have a community to really push a certain segment forward, it doesn't happen. Yeah, so that's great. Gaurav, would love to hear you as well.
Thank you, Rohit. The problems and breakdowns are part of success. I feel that without them, the journey would be just a super boring straight line. And like I feel that personal problems that as a startup we face are like minuscule. So I would like to highlight problems which are there for the utilization, for the fruitful utilization of hemp in construction. So first thing I would like to take us to the past that actually as Indians we have one very good thing. We forget our roots very quickly, and we most of the time we forget to take the time our heritage. So hemp, when we started doing research, we always felt that this is some new technology which is happening everywhere else, like in Europe, in Australia, in Nepal as well. But India is somewhere lagging behind. And I also felt sometimes that even if we work so hard, we fight industry, so we will still be behind all these countries who are much ahead of us. But when I read an article by Dr. M.R. Singh, who was the archaeologist, has been used in the case of Ellora. So that is like just exploded something and or expanded something in the mind. And I felt that if in a mega project like the caves of Ellora of that time, it was such a project of like national importance. Indians were using hemp plants for construction. So it must have been a very advanced technology, and definitely we must have been very, very proficient in that technology. That's why we were using it in the case of Ellora. So eventually, like I said, Indians forget their roots, so we forgot that technology. And now, since everybody else is adopting it, we are trying to bring it here in India. So, what are the challenges currently that people are facing? Everybody, like us. One is the reliable supply chain. That is a very big problem. As like we have discussed previously, also for seeds, for nutritional products, also that the same issue is there. For medical products, also the same issue is there. For textiles, also the same issue is there. And similarly, for building construction, also a reliable and robust supply chain issue is there. And second issue is actually the processing, because we have no mechanization available which can do process the raw material so that we can develop products from it, or maybe companies who want to develop products from it, they require a semi-processed raw material at their doorstep. At least they should get this material which is not available. And specifically, as from an architect's point of view, and you will understand very well that this material is not very well established in the industry because of the lack of awareness, first thing. And second thing, even if we are trying to develop awareness, there are no building standards for this material. So if we talk about the national building code, hemp is not recognized as a building material, or maybe hemp seed is not recognized as a building material. If we talk about the green building code, in them also, like the IGBC, we do not have hemp as a building material. And if we talk about the Bureau of Indian Standards, we don't have any standards which can define that this compressive strength or this thermal insulation property must be there in the building material. So these are the basic issues which are there, and which everybody of us as an industry are trying to resolve. And I'm very hopeful that soon we will be seeing more and more buildings coming out of hemp. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, guys. I think, in terms of the challenges, it's very evident that, a reliable source of supply chain, lack of processing machineries. And I know, Aditya, you had mentioned that, because of these lack of information around the processing machineries, you ended up, going out there and setting up your own processing plant to manage the waste, right? Similarly, non-established codes either towards the building material side or towards the LEED or the green building codes, etc. Right? So maybe this brings us to the right doorstep of policy level changes and policy level help that you as an entrepreneur think that the government should focus on and help people who are in the sustainable building side of things. So would love to hear from you guys, what kind of policy level help or changes or amendments that you feel would be really helpful for the sustainable building side of the industry.
Sure. So just to keep the point according to the Gaurav as well, what he said very clearly defines the lack in terms of standardization. When you talk about BIS, when you talk about National Building Code, these are the codes which need to be adhered when you go on mass housing projects or big scale projects. Let's say you make a one house, you can make it according to your material specification or your, I would say, customization. But that is not the case when you go on mass housing. So that is where we think there is a big challenge in terms of the testing and certification part of it itself. When I say testing and certification, in a very simple term, what I make is a composite. There is no definition or defined kind of method in the building material codes also where my composite is listed somewhere that this will come into this category. There is no certification and testing requirement. I have to follow the IS code which are made for concrete in order to get the certification. Many of the times, even labs or the testing agencies clear out that we will be going to test it with the IS code, but we cannot put a NABL accreditation because your material is not concrete and you are getting a test standard for a concrete. And I say, even if I match the specification, for example, standard weight, dimension, thickness, anything, they cannot see the reliability, because if I make a cube of 150 by 150 by 150 mm, similar to what concrete, my cube will not break. Forget about breaking, it will not even crack out, and the whole limit of the machine testing limit will be over. And that is what we have seen while giving to the testing agencies. And like we have laughed our lungs out by just seeing their faces when they take these tubes for testing. So that is where I realized that I cannot do the same method for the testing. So I try to stopgap and find a solution in which I can do the testing on certain parameters like compressive strength, structural strength, water absorption, according to the specified IS code, but clearly specifying that this material is not a concrete, it's a composite material made out of this material. So that it brings out the clarity in terms of material, plus it brings out the testing agency's headache of liability. Because NABL approved labs has a very clear terms of operation in which they have to take the specimens and everything in a very specified format and do the testing. So that is where I see a big gap in terms of the testing and standardization of the material itself, which is not there. As Gaurav rightly said, the product which has been used for thousands of years is not there in National Building Code. And you are thinking to incorporate a product which is the next future like composite. So that is where we see a gap, that you want to adopt the new materials, but you are not having enough kind of measures to take them on board, kind of providing any kind of new clause in which, let's say, new material can be put in, or new testing methods can be put in, or an agency which can basically say that any kind of new material, let's find out with these methods and test it out and put it there. Yeah, there are agencies like Building Material Technology Promotion Council in India who are doing good in their manner, but still, eventually what happens is they ask us to do certain testing for compressive and all those things. That again brings down to the IS code, because there is a code that catch 22 circle starts. So that is where we see a very, very big gap. The second most important thing is, let's say, even if you make a 100% test product, let's say 100% performance property which is required, you achieve that. Adoption of that product is eventually going to bring more demand and eventually adopt the scale of the technology. And that will only happen if you have a clear cut mandate of utilizing them in certain sense. We all know that how in the history of India or any country in the developing form, the adoption of building material, adoption of automotive technologies, adoption of industrial technologies has happened because of certain regulations being put in, so that the industry or domain, sector specific domain have picked it up in a very huge volume. And that is what needs to be done for this kind of building material as well. You cannot just say that it's a green building material, needs the green products and everything, and everybody will start picking up. No, there needs to be a way and means in which it has to be defined specifically that 20%, 25%, or 50% of your any new area which is built up coming up has to be made out of this material of this category. And you put the certification side of it, that it has to be certified by these agencies that these are the building materials, so that the people who are making it has the responsibility of certifying their material, and the people who are using it will have the responsibility of taking them on a mass scale. And eventually, then we solve the problem of demand and supply. Otherwise, you will find 1,000 innovators like Aditya innovating across India in different building materials, but not finding a market fit product or market demand tie up in next 2 to 3 years. Not everybody has the same caliber to run out for 3 years, 5 years to kind of push that into market. So that is the two big thing I think needed to take this kind of new building material products into market.
Sure, absolutely. I think, as you guys have rightly mentioned, I think, and if I'm getting this right, one is, clearly defined definitions for either composites or sustainable building materials and, materials of the certain category. Second would be, clearly defined testing and certification standards. Even if you're testing for tensile strength or compressive strengths and things like that. So unless you have that, how would you know, where to use this particular block, or how to even use it? Use it in a wall, or use it on a floor, or as just a facade material, or as an insulation or something, right? I think those are really, actionable steps that the government should take, or, the agencies around the building construction should take, and start including some of these things as standard building materials. And as you rightly said, right, 20-30% of a building or of a construction project should account for sustainable building materials or composites or recycled materials. So I guess this, maybe ties into the LEED goals that you might have heard, right? LEED gold certificate, LEED diamond certificate, silver certificates. So do you think there are ways where companies or construction projects or developers can really take advantage of the LEED certifications and credits when they're applying the sustainable building materials in India, or not?
Can I take this question?
Yeah, sure. Gaurav, take it.
Thank you so much. Being an architect, I would like to share a few things here. Definitely. And also, like a little bit, I'll answer the previous question. I feel and I have seen that the Indian government is really doing very good things it's really doing, and we must appreciate it. India is a very big country with so much of population, so much of problem, but still, we are doing very good in comparison to even the developed countries. Still, I'm attending this call in between event, which is specifically focused on the green affordable green. So, and the government, if we talk about hemp in construction, even the government, nobody knows this. I came to know yesterday.
Yeah.
That when the restoration project by the Archaeological Survey of India, the government agencies are already using hemp in restoring the old monuments. They are using the hemp plant matter as an additive to the lime plaster, because they themselves know and they understand that this additive will enhance the life and other qualities of the material. So, and also government is working on, it's talking to people, and it's trying to make a more easy environment for these green materials to come up. And if coming to the next question, that you were talking about lead gold platinum rating, and we talk about IGBC rating. So since these kind of materials, or let's talk specifically hemp-based or waste plastic-based materials, they are picking up. So government is also working, and it's also duty of entrepreneurs like us to work hard and collect data, gather data, and talk to the government, communicate with the government agencies, and get these products certified and get these products listed in the maybe national building code, so that they can come under the tendering process, in which if the government is making a building and if they are floating a tender, then any vendor who is buying those products or manufacturing those products to be installed in those projects can fill up the tender based on these kind of materials. And also in India, it's already happening that if you are using green materials and if you are certifying your buildings, then the government and certain parts of the country is also providing you benefits like the increased floor area ratio. So some builder who is using a green building material, or maybe building a certified green building project, gets the additional benefit of having one more floor or maybe two more floors on top of his building, so that he can sell those floors and can earn the benefit. And also using this material gives direct benefit to the occupants in terms of energy saving. If we talk about hemp, it's a healthy material, so it also enhances the indoor air quality. So it is helping the building occupants. The insulation property, acoustic and thermal insulation, and specifically the thermal insulation, is helping us to reduce the electricity cost, which is consumed for the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, that's called the HVAC. And there are so many other benefits, and the benefits to the country in terms of environment, in terms of reduced pollution. So the government is aware about all these things. It's just that we all need to stand together. We all need to hold hands together and commit ourselves to the change that we want to bring.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gaurav, for that. And I think, whatever you're saying, I guess, makes me think about the adoption of, these materials within our country when compared to the world. So, maybe Karan, you can answer this one, wherein, because you're already manufacturing a few products, developing a few products and exporting them to other countries as well, right? And products like a tile or a wood base that you can use inside a home as opposed to an exterior element. So how are you seeing, the adoption in India as compared to the world, and as well as, on the certification side, that are there or were there any certifications that you as a company, were able to get for your products before you shipped them out to India, shipped them out from India?
Yeah, so I would what Aditya and Gaurav shared. It's the real-time scenario that every entrepreneur or every innovator like us who's working with some unique material into the system is actually facing the real-time scenario that there are no standards because we had a meeting with the ministry, like we had been to the BIS standard uh, department in Delhi. So we found out that they had one query, like innovators like y'all, you team like young people have to share our data with them. That is when things will get standardized, because according to them, according to the government, to create a standard or any particular testing parameters or any sort of regulation for particular material, they actually need a thorough study to be certified as well as validated by a certain team allotted by the government. So we just asked them randomly, like, how can we help them in such a kind of scenario? Because usually there's a long process where they have to hire a team of engineers or architects or whatever in every particular field where it's related to testing, and eventually they end up spending crores of rupees, as well as the allocation of the team actually leads to investment of money from the government, which also takes a certain duration of time for getting the papers signed, and it's like whole lot of paper process, and due to which things after every 10 year or 5 years after a new election, things change. So even these policymakers, people who are IAS position people who are actually sitting there to help us, they are like, innovators like you only have to say share the parameters, means the limits, like the range. So altogether we could actually acknowledge them, so that we can take that into a study, and this will also save the government's cost to bring on certain or allocate any validating team into the government, so that they can tell, okay, the hemp or hemp wood has a strength of so and so value, and it has to be tested under XYZ parameters. So if innovators like us only start submitting our reports and publications to them, definitely they'll start considering it as a standard value. And definitely from that level, we actually understood the whole process, like what is wrong with the system. So definitely we started getting tested according to, like, we compare our wood with metal. So definitely comparing it with metal, we don't want to get it tested according to the wood standards. So what we do is, like, we go through the standard policies what they're using with wood. See, that's a actual gamble. Like, we are testing our own material to the limits. So metal have far more better capabilities than hemp. But just imagine if we could actually attain the hardness of magnesium alloy, which is quite fascinating for us because it is stronger than steel, normal steel. So
Right.
we actually, after getting it tested, the standard policies, definitely we make sure that the NABL certification people do mention the word, like what is a material, and they are sometimes quite amazed to see that how can a wood looking like a composite can actually work better. So it's like a win-win situation for us, but definitely a new learning from them as well. So in this way, the more we share, the more data, like Gaurav said, like it cannot be tested according to the concrete testing parameters. New parameters needed to be tested or set. Definitely, Gaurav can actually bring on his views onto a paper, like doing a publication stating that okay, these are the new testing parameters that we conducted other than the conventional one, or we actually modified the conventional one and created a new testing parameters. So if the BIS standards or whichever bodies are testing parameters, they find this quite legitimate and quite genuine. Like, okay, this can also be a part of testing procedure. This could be the next standard testing this thing standard.
Yeah. I think, so I have a background of construction myself, right? So 6 years I was into construction back in the US, and this was a time when, hemp installation was one of the things that they just started using, and people were just going mad about it, right? Why? Because the regular installation, as you see in, those wooden constructions, is fiberglass, which is very much hazardous and very, tedious to even use, right?
Correct.
And over the years you get mold and all these issues with the insulation. So, looking at a country like the US, who, very easily adopted something which was they knew is important for somebody who's living in the house as well as for somebody who's making the house.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think as innovators, a lot of that weight falls on your shoulders, that you have to innovate. At the same time, you have to educate the regulators ki, these are the testing standards that it should be tested on. These are the, parameters that it should be categorized under. And these are the certifications that are really important for such a material. So it's, probably being in a sustainable space, it's a two-faced approach, right? Not just creating a product and selling it, but actually creating the category and bringing about that change and awareness. So kudos to you guys, what you're doing, and keep hustling. My final, question to all three of you would be, according to you, how important it is for an organization or an entrepreneur to really, keep the UN SDG goals as the center of their organization, and how can they really, benefit from any carbon credit companies that are out there, or are there any for India that you guys are currently benefiting from?
Okay, so I'll start maybe. If we authentically do our work, that's what my point of view is. If we are authentically doing our work, we might not even be knowing what is UN SDG goal, but we will be aligned to it. I have lived in a very remote village for 4 years, which was like 1 hour distance from the nearest road. I was living there, and I've seen that people don't know what is sustainability. They don't know what is sustainable. They don't know what is green. But when you look at them, when you look at their lifestyle, even if they are washing hands, so they go near a tree and they wash their hands and let the water go to the roots of the tree. So, like, what is more beautiful and more inspiring than this? So if we work authentically, if we don't compromise with the human quality that is inside us, it's because of our work. If somebody else is not getting a fresh air to breathe, and if we don't, and if we are just having a blind eye for that, then like whatever certifications we might bring or we might first, it won't create any difference. So I feel that yes, if we work authentically, and definitely we should keep an eye on what is happening in the world, because collective as a human race, we all are committed, and as a country also we have signed the charters and we are committed to reduce carbon emissions, and India is committed to become a net zero country by 2070. So we should, in every approach, in every action, we should keep in mind, and we should work towards that. And it is not difficult. And in fact, now the market is driving this. The people are demanding these kind of products. You yourself, Rohit, are part of Hemp Horizons, which is doing wonderful work. So you must be hearing from your customers that they are demanding more and more things. They must be demanding from you that I want your product in sustainable packaging now. I don't want plastic. So these kind of demands are coming from the consumer end as well. So how beautiful it is to see that collectively as people on this planet, we are all doing our bit to walk towards that goal of having a net zero ecosystem plus a zero carbon footprint ecosystem. And second question that you asked was regarding the carbon credit. So, I'm not very I'm not very much into it, but yes, being in this industry, I have had this opportunity to get acquainted to few people who are working in this, few who are working in India and few who are working abroad also. And I feel, or I have realized or experienced that this is a very, very promising thing which can be done. Just as an example, I'm telling you that one startup from the US approached us they just asked us that how much hemp have you used in the first hemp seed building that we have created, which is the Himalayan hemp ecosystem. And when I gave him the calculation, he gave back me some information that the use of hemp that you have done has sequestered this much amount of carbon, and in terms of carbon credit, you can get like 40,000 rupees as a benefit for that. So how wonderful it is! It's just a small 2-room house. So if all the villages in India start making their houses with the sustainable materials, and if we can convert them into carbon credit, we will not only be reducing or saving the environment and reducing the pollution, but at the same time, each and every individual or the house owner will get like 20,000, 30,000, 50,000, whatever amount he can get. So that will be additional benefit to the economy of the whole country. So that's what I see.
So I think you put this really beautifully, Gaurav, right? Ki, as the core, as a human, our core is already sustainable, right? We were taught sustainability right from the start. If you see somebody living in the hills or in, remote villages, they're already following those practices to be sustainable. It's just a new terminologies that us urbanites, have started using and feeling proud about if you do something sustainable. Right. And definitely in terms of the carbon credits, if more and more government bodies come into picture, more and more entrepreneurs like you come into picture. So if somebody is getting their house built, they're rather spending less money or even earning from it because of the carbon absorption and carbon sequencing that is happening. So these are some great goals to have when being part of a sustainable venture. With this, guys, I would really like to invite you for any closing remarks, and then we can move on to the Q&As with the audience.
I would like
so I think
just to add to the Gaurav. Hello.
Sure, please.
Yeah, just to add to the Gaurav point, what I think is so aligning yourself to sustainable development goals for those organizations which are already that big into scale, which they see they are not aligned, let's say. But as a startup, as a venture where we are starting out with a small team and everything, we imbibe sustainable development. We don't align ourselves, we imbibe ourselves. That these are the root cause where we are there to solve the problem in a very sustainable manner. So that is the big difference between a startup like us and a company of 1,000 people in scale, because they have to align themselves because they find themselves somewhere here and there. But for ourselves, we are very much imbibing them as a root cause, so that when we grow up to a 1,000 people team, we are having that as a core value itself. So that is the first thing. Second, very most important thing which Gaurav pointed out clearly is that regarding the carbon credit. So when we started working on the materials and everything, I usually get questions regarding that if we use your material, what kind of carbon saving we are doing, and can we get capitalized on that? So what happens is if you use it in a very small scale, you can account for the carbon credit, but to capitalize, you have to have a threshold. You cannot just capitalize in very small terms. But yeah, to get accountability about the emissions and the offset which you are doing is very important. That is first. So for that, we did a very simple task. So there is a US Environmental Protection Agency. They have their waste reduction model, and they release versions of them over a period of time. So right now the latest version is version 16. So what we do is whatever the composition we use to make that particular batch of product, or let's say any kind of new recipe, we make that recipe in that waste fraction model and see how much emission we are offsetting per ton of material we are manufacturing into this product. So this simple calculation will give you that if you use our, let's say, 10 tons of my Saltech composite material for making this kind of product, you have basically offset this many tons of carbon emission. So which is a good way of keeping yourself accountable and making yourself understand what carbon emission is, what your carbon footprint is, and eventually when you do it on scale, this can be converted into credit, and that can eventually capitalize to give you a extra benefits. As Gaurav rightly said, that if you do it on scale, let's say 1,000 houses, each built for 20 tons of material, so that's 20,000 tons of material. Eventually, that 20,000 tons of carbon emission converted into credit can be offset, and the money coming out of it can be distributed to those 1,000 houses. That eventually can bring a kind of capital value to it, but till then, accountability and your own footprint calculation will be a good factor to bring on the carbon emission and the related aspect of it.
Sure.
Rohit, I
So,
would like to add something to Aditya what he said.
sure.
Definitely, definitely the carbon credit concept is still basically a mystery to all of us. Like we have been studying books, but not every industry out here in India actually is known to it. So definitely it is having carbon credits is actually a process of 10 to 15 years. Like when we were actually guided by one of our green technologist mentor, he actually suggested like the first 5 years is actually the observation period. Like they'll just notify all the audits and all the things that you're doing. Then the next 5 years is where they actually start accountability. So when an average is taken out of that 10 years, it eventually gives out an average figure to you stating that, okay, this is the amount of carbons that you're saving. Okay. And when I asked them, see, 15 years of sustainability is actually like a long period for me to, we are actually
For a
living in
startup,
suspense.
yeah.
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 So we are actually living in suspense, and when will we encash the whole step? So they are like, okay, this is the standard procedure. So I just suggested him, like, see, we have been changing. We are seeing the drastic change of climate, and our products are actually impacting instantly. It is not like having an effect like homeopathy, like it is going on and on and on, and you'll get cured after several several decades. It's like happening instantly. Like we producing biodiesel, it is absorbing carbon emissions and actually giving out oxygen. So this is happening instantly. Like Gaurav said, the building materials are carbon negative, so it is actually absorbing carbon from the ecosystem. So the carbon air quality tested on and before. Actually, the timeline, according to the regulation set by the international standard, should be actually reviewed into short terms like 2 years, 3 years. So that is when we'll actually start encashing these carbon credits.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's a long process.
So basically, imbibing, the sustainability goals, and you keep hustling until you find that threshold of really, finding some returns from these credits whenever they will be, right? And
Absolutely.
hopefully, certain policy level changes happen in different countries and around the world standard, wherein, even startups can really benefit from these credits, because I feel like, companies who invest initially a whole chunk of money, and they're hustling for the product, for the market, for the awareness. So why not start supporting when they're already consuming the carbon right then and there, right in the process of manufacturing or processing.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, these are some interesting points, and I hope our audience have been enjoying and learning more and more about the sustainable building materials. So we can jump right into the questions, guys. We have two questions from the audience. Prashant has asked, there are two different aspects to the sustainable building materials. One is the education of such materials to break the perception that is it natural and can be sustainable, and the other is making it available and affordable. So his question to all of you is, what measures are being made in this direction to make it available, to make it affordable, and to break the general perception and spread the awareness around sustainable materials?
I would like to take this question specifically for hemp-based buildings. So, I took it as a responsibility, and we developed a course, and we proposed that course to the best architecture institute of India, the School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi. And I'm very glad to share that that 16-week course is already launched, and it's running in the for the second year students as an elective with the topic Building with Hemp, Creating an Ecological Lifestyle. So now, like me, there are many people who are trying to inform everyone about hemp. We all do, actually, formally or informally. So first, I'm happy to share that first course of building with hemp, specifically for the professional courses like architecture, has already started. And second thing, sorry, Rohit, I forgot your second question. Can you please repeat?
Yeah, so we wanted to know what are the measures that are being taken to make these sustainable products affordable and available.
Okay. Thank you so much. For reminding. So this is also a collective responsibility of each one of us, and as a I should say, part of this hemp industry in India, we have taken this responsibility since we are sitting in the first state to legalize the cultivation of hemp, and we are also located in Himalayas, which has traditional roots in the hemp cultivation. So we have taken up this responsibility, and we are trying to establish a robust supply chain, which will bring volume. So only with the volume and the economies of scale, the affordability can come. So we need to make it a mass material. We need to make this a mass technology, and in that way, we can make it affordable.
Great. Yeah, I think having a right supply of the raw material and the economic scale are definitely the answers for being available and affordable, and we see that in every industry. The next question from the audience is, how safe are fly ash materials when they are in their degrading process when compared to terracotta?
I think I should answer this as the material is related to me. So when we compare it, let's say material to material wise, we generally compare the degradability of the two aspects. One is on the abrasion part of it, how much year it is happening over how much period of time, and second is how it is degrading or performing as compared to the atmospheric conditions. So terracotta is a very, very, very good material and has been utilized since ages into our practices. But what happens is, after certain modernization, people were unable to scale the terracotta product to a large volume because of two, three reasons. One is the kind of way and method it was being made was manual driven and mostly into non-scalable processes. And that is where people came up with a new different approach where they went on to cement-based material. And fly ash was one of the materials which came out as a waste first, and then due to government regulations came into the siding and brick industry. Many of the thermal power plants which were producing this as a waste, waste after the generation of electricity and the burning of coal. So these material was being available in this thermal power plant in huge volume. people were unable to find any kind of use cases. That is where they kind of suggested to utilize them into building material, and that picked up in a very good manner. So that in India, most of the right now the fly ash. So people generally confused. There are two kind of ash comes out of from a power plant. One is fly ash, and another one is bottom ash. Fly ash is mostly used by the cement industry, and you will not find fly ash coming out of the power plant because these are not cheap. These goes around 600 rupees per ton to 1600 rupees per ton, depending on what kind of fly ash it is. So generally the ash which comes out of the power plant is bottom ash. So people make bricks out of them as well. But fly ash is a very good material, has a chemical property resemblance to cement. So most of the cement factory takes it. But the bottom ash which is used to make brick and all these materials also acts as a very good filler material. So now it basically depends on the how good the binder is. For example, if you use our composite as a binder and you use bottom ash as a filler, I can guarantee you that our abrasion resistance is 3 times more than concrete. And this is tried and tested. So when I say 3 times more abrasion resistance, that means it is 3 times more less wear than the concrete itself and the traditional building material like terracotta. So yeah, it basically depends on the binder application and the uses of the product very specifically. But yeah, the product which came out to be utilized in a huge scale was because of the waste which is being dumped into the landfills directly, and which I think was in a very better manner the approach by the government and the policy makers as well. So that is where we basically went on to fly ash brick and bottom ash brick and tiles and everything. But somehow we in every industry there is a fallback in some processes because people try to cut down the cost, try to manipulate the process and everything. That is said and done. This is a very, very good material for making building materials out of it. And we should not degrade, we should not basically degrade its uses by just comparing it with the natural material. Because if you stop using that today, you will have million tons being lying around in next month, and you will have no use case for them. So that is what my take.
So it's more about, using a lot of these industrial waste as building materials or as some sort of an ingredient for a construction material so that we don't end up with a lot of it, by the end. That's some good, thing to know. And I guess, guys, we have been running over time, and I do see Camellia there on the screen.
Now there was a very, very interesting session. I have a lot of things that I would like to mention here, but just because we don't have a lot of time, I do want to highlight some things of this conversation. One, the role of perception, like Aditya mentioned, in the sustainability space is very important. And that is why everyone that comes into this space cannot just go sell products, right? The awareness and education that goes with all the startups that are getting into the sustainability space is ongoing, and it's an ongoing effort. And I think it will be this way for some years, just because it's just starting. So a lot of people have these ideas that some materials are just better because they have been around for longer, right? And I mean this longer just by mentioning modern times, right? Because before that, there were good materials in the building. Let's say wasn't called building industry, but people used other types of materials for building, right? That were good materials. And then we got into the modern area where we changed those and ended up with this, bricks and concrete. Those are the best options. And now it's kind of difficult to change that, right? The second thing I want to highlight is the importance of the testing methods and how from the policymakers and the government and the institutions, they need to catch up, right, with all the innovation. There is a lot of innovation happening in India. It's incredible, the innovation that is happening in so many areas for sustainability, but policy, testing methods, and all of that is just like running behind, just like few kilometers back, like great distance. The other thing I wanted to highlight is having sustainability as a core value from the start. So Gaurav mentioned that where he used to live, there wasn't this concept of sustainability because of the way people were living. And they were living in a sustainable way, we just didn't know it. But in our process of living more modern lives and moving to cities and all of that, we have left some of those sustainable practices, and we have to go back to them. And so it is important to have this in mind even from the beginning in a business, that you can be a sustainable business even when you're a small business. And the role of accountability, that I also think is very important. And the carbon footprint and how it's managed now, that is also something that it's very new, and it also needs to evolve to benefit those who are getting into this space, because like Rohit mentioned and Karan mentioned, the people that are getting into this sustainability space are starting small and having to struggle with a lot of things, from government to people to putting resources on education to running around behind institutes to let them do the research, or trying to find the proper machinery and all of that to make their products, and their benefits from the carbon footprint are not available immediately. It's just like, okay, maybe in a few years. So thank you so much for being a part of this panel. It was very, very interesting. And thank you so much, Rohit, for moderating this panel. I hope we can do this in the future.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, everyone, for attending.